There we go. And then number 3, if that adjective ends in E, we drop that final E, that silent E, before adding ER or EST. Humbler. Here's why it's important to drop that E. We don't want humble est. It looks like humblest, right? So we drop that silent E before we add that suffix est, humblest. And then, of course, here you should have finer and finest. Go ahead and pause, make sure you've spelled it correctly, check through real quick, and then we are turning and moving ahead to page 209. I'm going to move forward to page 209 on my camera. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Let's zoom in a little. Alright, on page 209 you will see a list of comparative and superlatives that are formed irregularly. That means they don't follow the ER, EST pattern, and they don't follow the more and most pattern. Most of these, again, you should be used to using throughout our daily lives, conversations, wordings, and things like that. We all know good, better, best. Well, when you're talking about health, or how are you doing today, the actual correct grammatic word would be well, not good. So it works the same way with the superlative well, better, and best. Today I feel well, yesterday I felt better, but Saturdays I feel the best. Right? Bad, worse, worst. Same thing with health, feelings. Ill, we don't say iller and illest, worse and worst. So good and well have the same comparative and superlatives. Bad and ill have the same comparatives and superlatives. Right? Many, more, and most. Much, more, and most. Okay. When you're talking about items that can be counted, and when you're talking about amounts like money or liquids, things like that. A little amount, okay, then becomes less and least. Far, farther, farthest. When you're talking about something's distance, when you're talking about how far someone has gone, okay, far, further, furthest. Okay. That house is farther away than his house. Okay. So he traveled the furthest to get to school each day. And then, of course, we've got a word like several. You don't say more several or most several. You don't say several-er. You would say more or most. So these shouldn't be brand new, but it's always good to remind ourselves, refresh our memories, and then put them into use. So let's pull up the look closely. And this is going over the things I was just saying above. Farther and farthest are used in sentences talking about physical distance. San Diego is farther from my home than I thought. Further and furthest are used when they don't refer to physical distance, okay? Unless it's talking about an action. Do we need further discussion before we vote? Well is an adjective referring to health. It follows a linking verb, I am well. We will soon be studying how these words can be used as another part of speech also, but we're not there yet. We're just going over adjectives. So think C. We're going to use the adjective they give us in parentheses, and we're going to fill in the correct form in the blank. So Jermaine is the good speller in our class. Would we say better? Well, we know we're talking about more than one person. Common sense should tell us he's the best speller in our class. So yes, we're starting with this positive form of adjective, but we're deciding which one is going to be the correct form that we use in the blank. We will give blank consideration to your idea. So more, which means you're going to be in the comparative, And if you look at the top, that means we're going to have to talk about it further. Okay? That was the bad idea I have ever heard. Hopefully you already knew that that was the worst. Haley's house is far down the road. Since we're talking about distance, farther down the road. Who sold the much candy in the candy sale? Just even saying it out loud sometimes helps you to realize the only thing that's going to fit would be most. Makes the most sense. Andrew ran the far of all the runners. We're talking about distance. Farthest or furthest honestly could be used because we're talking about a verb here. He ran. The book wants you to use farthest and just keep that with distances. But if you put furthest, it would not be incorrect. That would be okay to use when you're talking about a verb. But if you'd rather just remember distances, use far, farther, farthest, and then other conversations or discussions or things like that, further, furthest. There we go. Get a nice little tongue twister here. All right, and that's where we're going to stop today. We're not even going to do the right D, but hopefully you were able to follow along. It should be a good refresh review. Nothing else extra for you to do as far as assignments or homework. So goodbye for today, and I'll see you in our next language lesson.